Channy watches him eat for a moment before he tells her that he's read her works, and goes on to say that he's read her blog, which explains why he knew a lot of weirdly personal information about her. At this point, that's all on her. When you air your dirty laundry for the world to see, you don't get to be surprised that people know what color your bloomers are. Hello and welcome to Connotation Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books and discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Funny You Should Ask by Elissa Sussman. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 2. We return to Channy's interview with Gabe. To the surprise of literally nobody, the author hasn't learned the meaning of the word pacing, and we're still dragging things out at a snail's pace. Channy drives Gabe and his puppy to a restaurant. As they're going, Gabe will not stop asking her about growing up in LA and talking about the seasonal differences between California and where he grew up in Montana. The entire thing is so freaking tedious. I would say that this takes up too much time, but that would imply that I wanted to read Gabe's opinions about Montana to begin with. I thought that we'd have a change of conversation when they got to the restaurant, but no. Instead, it's now Channy's turn to bore the readers about the finer points of her home. Ugh. Finally, the plot decides to move past the charms of LA, and we get the tedious aforementioned scene where Gabe talks with the pregnant waitress. He suggests to Channy that the burgers are good and that she needs to pair them with a beer. And, I thought that the conversation about their home was bad. Gabe asks if Channy trusts him and orders for both of them. This is followed by such a tedious passage about Gabe's puppy, and then Gabe flirting with her, that I want to chuck my e-reader at the author. Learn freaking pacing. Finally, Channy remembers that she's not there to flirt with Gabe. She's there to interview him. But as she looks at her questions, she realizes that she could answer every single one of them. They're not exactly groundbreaking. He jumps in and randomly asks if she slept with a teddy bear. And while it might be completely out of left field, I'm also classifying it as one of those junior high conversations. She returns the question, and then she's left kind of floundering. She tries to ask about his big breakout role, but his answer is so mundane and ordinary, and something that she already knew the answer to. She peppers him with questions that he only answers with one-word responses for an entire freaking page. The thing of value that the readers get from this is that the big breakout role Gabe was in sounds suspiciously like Brokeback Mountain. Finally, when Channy is able to answer more of the questions than she asked him and finish Gabe's sentences, Gabe seems to finally snap over how unprofessional Channy is. He randomly starts to info dump about her background, of which he knows way too much, including where she met her now ex-boyfriend. The entire thing is more than a little creepy, especially when you remember that, by Channy's own admission, she's nothing more than a puff-piece reporter for the company. She shouldn't have that much info about herself on the Celebrity Reporter website. It's weird, isn't it, he asks softly, when somebody thinks they know you. I get what he's going for, but at the same time, he agreed to do this interview. He's supposed to be making it seem like he's an amazing fit for James Bond. Pissing off the reporter who could write a scathing article about him is not a good idea. I was used to asking a simple question and sitting back, letting my subject monologue until I got some decent pull quotes. I was used to celebrities being excited to talk about themselves. She's not exactly doing a great job here. It makes me wonder how terrible her other interviews were. Let's say that there's probably a good reason why she's stuck writing puff pieces. Channy continues to flounder and then puts her foot in her mouth by asking about Gabe's father. Several years ago, somebody had dug through Gabe's trash and randomly came up with the details that his dead father was a sore subject for him. The entire situation was made 10 times worse when Gabe tried to sue the tabloid. Streisand effect? What's that? She's quick to realize her mistake, and it's obvious that she's lost her chance. He asks her the same question she'd asked him about watching James Bond movies with her father. She fumbles through an answer before Gabe excuses himself. Channy sits and mopes for a long time and thinks about how bad that she's messed up, but then Gabe comes back and encourages her to continue with the interview. Bonus Chapter 3. This bonus chapter is from a website called, please don't make me say this, I say it myself, thejam.com, not blogspot.com. Yes, you have to write out the first dot in that URL. The entire thing is basically a single page of Channy blogging about her breakup with Jeremy. The gist of the entire thing is that Jeremy wanted to move to New York. Channy didn't. They broke up. I told him I'd never move to New York. He said that was the problem. That because I wasn't the kind of person who would move to New York with him, then I just wasn't the kind of person he could be with. What a completely terrible thing to say to somebody. I'm sorry, but if you ever get to this level in your relationship, you should probably be grateful that it's ending. Even if Channy had moved to New York with him, there would always be something that would turn her into the kind of person he couldn't be with. Even if that something was her refusal to take the trash out or something equally dumb. After that, Channy said that she ate a lot of ice cream. She goes on to say that she thought that heartbreak was supposed to be good for inspiration, but she can't find any more words right now. She imagines that Jeremy is typing away at his typewriter with a glass of gin within reach. He sounds like one of those English professors who writes a novel about how a 40-year-old man wants to sleep with a girl who's going to be 18 in 2 months. Channy says that whatever he's writing will likely become a bestseller. Considering that all of this happened a decade earlier, I honestly can't wait to find out how Jeremy crashed and burned. It'd be really nice if we could see that. Anyway, this entire thing is Channy's side blog while she works at the Broad Strokes reporting agency. She also plugs her interview with the actress, the one she did right before the Gabe interview. Chapter 3. This chapter opens with Gabe telling Channy, "You've got a little something on your phone." No, wait, let me do it for you. The entire thing was so cringe-inducing and, you guessed it, went on for way longer than necessary. Their food finally arrives and Channy does a weird thing where she puts her fries in a specific pattern on her bun before eating it. Gabe is like, "Looks weird, but let me give it a try." "Oh yeah," he said, a soft moan escaping. "That is delicious." Maybe I've been eating the wrong food or something, but I've never once reacted towards a burger with fries on it like I'm having the best bedroom experience imaginable. Calm down, dude. Channy watches him eat for a moment before he tells her that he's read her works, and goes on to say that he's read her blog, which explains why he knew a lot of weirdly personal information about her. At this point, that's all on her. When you air your dirty laundry for the world to see, you don't get to be surprised that people know what color your bloomers are. They continue to eat, and it's back to awkwardness, until Gabe admits that he shouldn't be eating this, that James Bond is exactly known for his beer gut. The entire thing could have been a moment for the author to comment on unhealthy weight loss in Hollywood, but much to my dismay, this said conversation is over quickly. Now a little buzzed on 3 beers, Gabe admits that he was the second choice to play Bond. The first was obviously Gabe's one-time co-star and British celebrity Oliver Mathis. Even his own mother expressed disappointment that Oliver had been offered the role. His own mother! He goes on to say that he's not half as stupid as he pretends to be, or that the public would like to think. He reads the blogs and knows that people's opinions of his upcoming role as James Bond. And yes, he can actually read also despite what the public would like to think about him, a stereotype which is hammered in place by one of his aforementioned himbo hick roles. But it's painfully obvious that the criticism of him from his typecasting as a dumb hick to his upcoming role as James Bond is an insanely sore subject. They talk briefly about a movie premiere that he's attending later. To him, they're boring affairs, but he also does them a lot. Channy has not, and I almost want her to say something about that. Gabe waves the waitress over and asks for his 4th beer. Channy notes that he's more than a little drunk, but seems to have loosened his tongue quite a bit. She asks about the friendship with Oliver that he admitted to a moment earlier and tries to ask how their friendship is holding up after the Bond decision. Gabe says that they're still friends, but not that Oliver didn't care about being snubbed. The waitress comes back with the beer, and even she seems a little concerned over how drunk Gabe is getting. However, he's quick to wave her off and turns back to Channy. They talk about the accent he's been learning how to use for a second. Then Gabe admits that the hardest part of playing James Bond isn't faking the accent, but trying to pretend like he actually deserves the role itself. Bonus Chapter 4. This next bonus chapter is from Film Fans, and it's an excerpt of a review of Tommy Jacks by David Anderson. This movie is a World War II period drama starring Oliver and Gabe. In it, the two of them play brothers living on a farm before joining the war. They fall in love with the same woman who eventually ends up accepting a proposal from Gabe's character before the two of them ship out. David goes on to write that following this, Gabe's character dies within the first 20 minutes of the film. He talked about how a lot of period dramas like this often have a systematic formula that they always follow and hardly ever deviate from, about how they're all Oscar bait but are hardly ever worth the actual award. But what happened in the rest of the movie with Oliver's character made this film stand out. Unfortunately, we do not actually get to see the rest of their review, which is probably good since I don't care. Were these bonus chapters really necessary? Are they at literally any point going to actually add anything to the actual plot? Yes, I have read books with a similar aside at the end of every chapter, but at least in the good books, they had the decency to make the end of chapter sides, funny. These are simply tedious and pointless. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to Snark your rating? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your rating is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys. He randomly starts the info dump about her background, of which he knows way too much, of which... Tessa?